Hi, Year 10. Hope you're all good. Hope everything was all right yesterday with your work on the religious settlement. Today's lesson is going to be a little bit lighter, a little bit less going on. Hopefully, therefore, it won't take you quite as long to get through today's work. As ever, if you have any issues or you are confused or stuck, please just get in touch. Okay. So today, what we're going to be looking at is, well, we're going to have a couple of lessons on this, but we're going to start today by looking at some of the reactions to that religious settlement. So the way it kind of is dealt with. Now, we've obviously talked, Elizabeth tries to find a middle way, a via media, she calls it, to try and, get a compromise that both sides are going to be happy with. However, the trouble with compromises is no one really gets what they want. So she does still face challenges. So today we're going to look at the domestic challenges, and next week, we're going to have a look at the foreign challenges. Okay, and we're going to think about how dangerous they actually were. So overall, how successful was Elizabeth's settlement? We've got three key words today. The first one is recusant. Recusant. That means someone who refuses to attend church services. Okay, and obviously people are going to be potentially inclined to want to do that if they are a Catholic and they disagree with what's been, ordered in the settlement. They may refuse to attend those services. Our second word is vestments. Sorry, this came out in the wrong order. So vestments are the type of special clothes that priests will wear, so robes, effectively, and there's lots of different ones. And the one we need to be worried about is something called a surplice. And a surplice is just this white kind of over vest type thing that Catholic priests wear when they are conducting services and kind of can show off how special they are, effectively. So those three key words are really important for today. To help you understand some of these problems that Elizabeth faces. So your first task, I'm going to ask you to try and predict what some of these problems might be. Okay, so we're going to look at domestically first, so what's going on in England. And obviously there's basically two kind of sides here. There's Catholics and there's Puritans. Okay, what Elizabeth decides to do is broadly quite Protestant, so both of those groups are going to be annoyed for various reasons. So the first task, what I'd like to do is answer these two questions in your book in full sentences. So just to sort of give you a few ideas, okay, Catholics, well, let's think about what's in that religious settlement. There's an English prayer book, English Bible, so it's in the vernacular, in the language that ordinary people speak. We know that's not a Catholic idea. Elizabeth is head of the church, not the Pope. Okay, they might have a problem with that, okay, because they like the Pope, they think he's there. There's priests are allowed to get married. Okay, Catholics are not going to like that. They're going to have a problem with that. And of course, the other thing is that priests have to swear an oath of loyalty to Elizabeth as their leader. If you believe the Pope is, God's representative and he's in charge of the church, you're going to have a problem with doing that. So Catholics might find those things a bit problematic. On the other end of the spectrum, there's a few things Puritans might not like as well, because whilst Elizabeth has gone broadly Protestant, there are a few areas in which she could have gone further. So, for instance, churches are allowed to keep their stained glass and their images and their statues. Okay, you can see this is a Church of England church here. It's not as decorated as a Catholic church, but there is still some decoration there. So Elizabeth says churches can keep those elements. So things like this, which is a crucifix, this model cross. Okay, Puritans might not be too happy about that. You can also say that priests they continue to wear vestments, so those special robes. Priests are still being asked to wear those. So that also might be something that Puritans might find objectionable. The other thing is that they still have bishops and kind of a church hierarchy, which again Puritans don't think is necessary. They think that congregations, the people in the church, can manage it themselves. So there's a few things that Puritans might think are a bit soft and Catholic as well. So both those sides are going to be annoyed in some ways. So I'd like you to write answers to those two questions, I say, based on what I've just talked about and what you did yesterday. When you're ready, we can move on to the next bit. So, what I'm now going to ask you to do is we're going to have a look at the overall success of this settlement with the people in England. So, the churchmen, the clergy, so that's the priests, the bishops, the ordinary kind of people delivering the services in England, and the people themselves, because obviously the ordinary people are quite important here. So, what I want you to do is draw yourself a table. I reckon give yourself maybe about a page landscape with this. Obviously, probably slightly less than a page. I reckon if you've just done a title and answered those two questions, the remaining space you can use for this table. And for each of these two groups, so clergy, churchmen, and then the people, I want you to use the information sheet I've given you called success failure to write down in bullet points the successes. So, in what ways does the settlement go down well with the clergy or with the people? In what ways can we see it as having worked? So, are people accepting it? Are they swearing that oath of loyalty to Elizabeth? Is that happening? In which case, it's a success. And on the flip side, in what ways has it been a failure? So, in what ways are the clergy perhaps rejecting the settlement? In what ways are people rejecting the settlement? And then in that final column, I want you to make an overall judgment. How well has it gone down with each of those groups? Okay. And as I use the information sheet for that, it's not very hugely long and detailed, so I'm not expecting the most thoroughly filled with writing table in the world, but there should be bullet points. And as ever, please, the more detail the more detail the better. Okay, so precise dates, figures, etc. Okay. Next thing I'd like you to do, and this is kind of your final big task for today, is we're going to have a look at the major threats from the Catholics and the Puritans. So there's two big groups that are in England. The Puritans having kind of been a new emergence that have come along after Mary's reign because they've been in exile, they've gone abroad, they've been radicalised to be extreme Protestants, to be Puritans, and they're now coming back to England to cause problems for Elizabeth. So I'm going to ask you to give yourself a full page this time and give yourself a sort of draw yourself a mind map like this. Okay, again, a full page. So in the middle, you're going to put domestic challenges. On the left, you've got Puritans, and on the right, you've got Catholics. What I need to do is use the information sheet to add information to these. And basically, both of these two factions, there are two major elements of their challenge. So the Puritans, something called the vestment controversy and the crucifix controversy. So two things they get a bit uppity about. One is the vestments, the robes, one is crucifixes. And then for the Catholics, we've got another two kind of sections, one of which is the papacy, so the Pope, and the other is the English nobility, okay, the nobles within England. So I want you to add information to each of these headings, okay, using my information sheet as ever, detail, detail, detail. And then when you have done that, I would like you to give each side a score out of 10 for how threatening it was. So if you give it 10 out of 10, it's the most threatening thing ever. Elizabeth's going to be off her throne any day. They're going to boot her off. They're going to kill her. It's going to be awful. And 1 out of 10 is, only moderately threatening. A little bit annoying, but not really going to challenge her position. Okay, so you get all that information together, give each side a score out of 10, and then what I want you to do is go on Teams. I've created a channel that is domestic challenges to the religious settlement, and I would like you to post an answer to this question. So, did Elizabeth face greater threats to her religious settlement from Catholics or Puritans? Okay, which side was more dangerous? Okay, and what I'm going to try and do is go over your answers tomorrow and write you a little reply to each. Okay. So that's today's work. As I say, not quite as much as yesterday. If you have any problems, as ever, get in touch. And I'll look forward to reading your answers. Have a great day.